In the early 1880s, Hakam Yosef Sitehon, who was born in Halab in the year 1813, wrote a book called Vaylaqet Yosef. This book was published by his grandson, Hakam David Moshe Sitehon, in the year 1915. In this book, Hakam Yosef Sitehon discussed the permissibility of buying certain dairy products from non-Jews because of the prohibition of drinking milk that was milked by a non-Jew without a Jewish person watching and making sure that the milk was from a kosher animal. When this happens, the milk is commonly referred to as Halab Akum, or non-Jewish milk, but when a Jewish person is watching, the milk is commonly referred to as Halab Yisrael. One dairy product that he discussed was Sahlab, which interestingly he noted that when he wrote this book was something that had just become available in Halab approximately 10 years earlier. At that time, Jewish people started buying Sahlab from non-Jews, and Hakam Yosef Sitehon concluded that it was not permissible to do so, even though the people claimed that unkosher milk was not available in Halab at that time. Then in another discussion in the same book, he discussed ice cream that was flavored with fruit juices and milk and was called Anbar Booz. This ice cream had also become available recently, and Jews were also buying this from non-Jews. And Hakam Yosef Sitehon cited an anonymous rabbi who permitted the ice cream, since unkosher milk was not available in Halab at that time. This rabbi was relying on the ruling of the Piri Hadash, a 17th century authority who was born in Italy and later lived in Jerusalem. However, Hakam Yosef Sitehon argued that the leniency of the Piri Hadash, who allowed milk milked by a non-Jew without a Jewish person watching, in a place where unkosher milk was either unavailable or much more expensive, did not apply to Halab, since there were camels in Halab and in the surrounding villages. So Hakam Yosef Sitehon concluded that it was not permissible to eat this ice cream either. However, the publisher, Hakam David Moshe Sitehon, who was Hakam Yosef Sitehon's grandson, added his own comment that the rabbi who permitted it would defend his position based on the fact that since the camel milk was not available, it would be much more expensive than the kosher milk. And the Piri Hadash also allowed non-Jewish milk in places where unkosher milk was significantly more expensive than the kosher milk. In any case, decades later, in the year 1919, Rabbi Suleiman Manni, who was the rabbi of Hebron at that time, received a question from Halab regarding the permissibility of metal containers of cooked milk that came from Europe. In his response to them, he noted that the custom of the majority of the Jews of Halab was to drink milk that was not milked in front of a Jew, based on the rulings of the Tashbetz and the Piri Hadash. Additionally, the Haidah wrote that if the custom of a city where unkosher milk is not available is to buy milk from a non-Jew in a pot, the custom does not have to be stopped, since they are relying on great authorities who permit this. In the end, Rabbi Mani also permitted the milk from Europe, since unkosher milk was also significantly more expensive in Europe, and the rabbis of America had also permitted it. All this was printed in the book Ma'aseh Eliyahu that was published decades later in the year 1978. So we see that Hakam Yosef Sitehon's position did not become so accepted, since most of the Jews of Halab applied the leniency of the Piri Hadash to their city, since unkosher milk was not available there. It seems that even though there were camels in Halab, they did not milk them. Hakam Yitzhak Shahebad also wrote about non-Jewish milk in his book Ro'ei Ne'eman. He noted that the same Hakam David Moshe Sitehon, who published his grandfather's book Vaylaqet Yosef, would drink non-Jewish milk in Argentina, based on the ruling of the Piri Hadash, as well as Rabbi Moshe Feinstein's ruling that allowed non-Jewish milk in a place where the government did not allow unkosher milk to be sold as regular milk, and also due to the difficulty of acquiring Jewish milk in his city. Furthermore, Rabbi Shlomo Saka Antebi cited a written source that stated that in New York, Rabbi Jacob Kassan completely permitted non-Jewish milk. He wrote this in his not yet published book, Ma'agalei Aretz. But it seems that they were only lenient when they were buying ready-made dairy products. As Hakam Yitzhak Shahebad also wrote that in Halab, the non-Jews would come up to their homes to sell them milk with their flock of animals. and they would be careful to watch the non-Jew milk the goats in front of them. So we see that when certain dairy products became commercially available in Halab in the 19th century, the custom developed among the majority to be lenient and buy these products from non-Jews because unkosher milk was not available in their city, which is in accordance with the ruling of the Piri Hadash. This practice was also accepted by the rabbis of the Halabi communities in both Argentina and in New York. However, some were stringent, like Hakam Yosef Sitehon, who prohibited buying the sahlab and the ice cream from non-Jews in Halab. All of this was with regards to ready-made dairy products. But when they bought milk from a non-Jew who was milking the animal on the spot, they were careful to watch the milking process to make sure that the non-Jew was in fact milking a kosher animal. And just to clarify, the leniency in Halab was only regarding Halab Yisrael, but when a dairy product had other kashrut concerns, of course it requires reliable rabbinic supervision.